welcome to Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I'm Pennin.
And I'm B-Fire.
Yay!
Woo!
We're actually here together in person.
I know! I can reach across the table and I can touch her.
Oh,
High five.
I'm just kidding.
gross. She touched me. So yeah, we're here to do. It's not really a special episode. It's just another episode.
But it's special because
it's special because we're
here.
together.
Aww.
Aw. So we'll just do a little house cleaning stuff before we get going. First on our list, of course, is the upcoming conventions.
Boom, boom, boom.
We are super excited
Making
to
sounds.
be doing our first out-of-state live show. It's going to be at NandesCon, which is in Denver, Colorado.
Yes, I'm super
And
excited
that's
for
coming
that.
up the end of August here. What is it, the 20th? 21st?
Calendar.
Calendar.
It is starting the 22nd, and does it run Sunday?
Yes.
22nd to the 25th.
Thank you. Awesome. So come see us if you're in the area, if you plan on being at NandesCon. We actually have a live episode we will be recording there. It's going to be on Cosplay Glow Ups. So please come bring a photo of your first cosplay or of one that you've revamped, and we will get your picture at the live show that we will use on our blog.
Essentially what we'll do is you'll bring your first cosplay photo and we'll take a picture of you holding it with your new cosplay. If you want to be wearing that at the event, it'll be really cool.
Yeah, or you can just send it to us after, but we do want to see all your fun cosplay glow-ups and talk about all the things you've learned since your first cosplay.
Yeah.
We will also have a booth that you can come see us at our booth. I'm not sure yet if it'll be in Vendor Hall or Artist Alley, but you can come find us. We'll have a little sign that says Cosplay Stitch and Seam, and we will also have a limited run of some Cosplay Stitch and Seam merchandise.
Woo!
So yay!
Woo-hoo!
We will only have maybe 100 or so decals available, but if you are one of the lucky that get there, we will have some that you can take home.
Yay!
Anything else? Oh, and of course, share your horror stories with us at the convention.
Yes. We'll be running around being crazy people and having lots of fun.
And make sure you pay attention to the Facebook group and all of our feeds and whatnot. We will probably try to organize a gathering so we can get like a group picture of all of our Stitch and Seamers, Stitchers, Seamers, and all the in-betweeners.
Amazing.
I think that's the new title for all of our fans. Congratulations.
I'm sorry.
That was
Just
beautiful.
apologize to
On
everyone.
the fly there.
So we will definitely have a meetup of some sort for
Yes.
all y'alls.
Maybe by the time this episode is airing, we will have that posted in the Facebook group
Yay.
and on other social medias, because sometimes I forget those exist and I need to post on them more.
Yes. And speaking of our Facebook group, that is just one of the many ways you can interact with us at Cosplay Stitch and Seam. We have all kinds of memes and things you can reply to, and we always have Work in Progress Wednesday if you'd like to share your work. And we have many supportive, awesome cosplayers on there who have lots of fun ideas if you ever get stuck on a costume, if you need advice, or if you just want to know where to shop. We have plenty of people on there who are always willing to help out a friend.
Yeah. And you can also contact us on the website at CosplayStitchAndSeam.com, which
Or-
I almost lost, but I was being dumb. I'll save that for my horror story.
Okay.
Okay.
Or you can send us an email, cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Yay. But I think that's all of our getting ready stuff. We are looking into having some t-shirts, and we should have more information on that coming soon
Yes.
for actual Cosplay Stitch and Seam shirts.
Who wants a fun t-shirt?
I do. I do. I want to get to the point where we can have Cosplay Stitch and Seam fanny packs, because I want a fanny pack.
Okay.
Think about, like, I could carry so much of my gear in just like a Cosplay Stitch and Seam fanny pack. It'd be amazing.
If I could get a tactical, those like thigh tactical packs,
Ooh, yeah.
I'd be totally down for this.
Yeah.
Thigh tactical packs, yes.
Thigh tack pack.
Thigh tack pack. I love it.
Right.
I learned what fanny means in Britain the other day, so every
Did
time
you
you say
not
that,
know?
I did not know this.
You were this old when you learned?
Yes. Anyway, so now whenever it says, and anybody says fanny pack, I'm just like,
Mercedes.
Where were we?
Anyway, so our episode this week.
Wait, we gotta support
Support
us.
us. Oh yeah. I didn't write that one down. I was like, sports.
Support. I can talk. I run a podcast.
If you guys would like to support our podcast, you could do so on Ko-fi, which is ko-fi. We are Cosplay Stitch.
Yes.
And you can, it's basically what it would cost you to like buy us a coffee like you would with your friends. We're your friends. If you would like to help us, it just goes to our bandwidth cost and our website hosting costs so that we can, provide you with fun podcasty stuff. We are pretty small time. So anything also, you guys can help us out with is awesome.
Yeah. Much appreciated to those who have binge watched the show and shared it and given us reviews. Like, we love all of that. We love all the feedback. You guys are amazing. We love you.
It's so fun to hear stories of people who are like, yeah, I just got into it and I binge watched and I was like, whoa, but why?
It's like, oh my goodness.
Well, thank you, and we hope you're not sick of our voices yet, because we like to talk.
I got recognized at ToshoCon when they realized I was V-Fire. They were like, "You're V-Fired?" I was like, "Yes."
Aw.
And it's like, I should go by V-Fire more when I'm at places.
Aw. That's cute. So yeah, thank you guys. We would not be able to do any of what we have done without everyone's support.
Yes.
Not just like financially, it's been so awesome to just hear positive feedback and hear, people's stories about how the podcast has helped them or given them the courage to try competing or try cosplay for the first time is really amazing.
Yes. I love using this to garner a positive environment, and
absolutely.
I'm so happy to be seeing that come through in our fans and in the community that we are building on with the Facebook group and other places and whatnot. Like, we love you guys.
We do. It means a lot.
I could go emotional.
and if you do, if you have the time to drop us a review, those also are a huge help to us. So, because we definitely get that cosplayers. I am a cosplayer with very to little money, and so if you want to do something that helps us out that costs you nothing, just drop us a review. That would be amazing.
Mucho appreciated.
So that all said, we are starting the episode. We are doing this week on. I can't talk today. I feel today. This week's episode is today. Today's episode is talking a little bit more in depth about our favorite tools. I know we talked about having a starter kit before about like what you need to start certain projects, just to have a bare bones. But this one we wanted to go more in depth and talk about specialty tools that can save you a lot of time and pain.
This topic suggestion was sent in by Narwhals in Jars.
Thank you, Narwhals in Jars.
You are adorable and I love you. So they sent in, sorry, I can words too today. I'd love to hear you guys do a discussion on your favorite, but not necessarily necessary tools. Like things that you wouldn't necessarily include in a beginner's basic toolkit, but things that you found over the years that you couldn't go without now. For me, it would definitely be my rotary cutter. I did fine without it, but now I'm never going back. So thank you, Narwhals and Jars. That's an amazing topic and has inspired
something I can talk forever about.
Right?
Did you want to go first?
Sure. Scissors that are actually just for fabric.
Yeah. Oh no, Mercedes.
Sorry. I have found all my scissors, by the way.
I'm so glad.
In organizing my project room, which is so close to being finished. Like, everything's up on the walls. I just have to finish sorting all my crap.
But
in doing that, I have found all 5 pairs of scissors. Nice. I didn't realize I had 5. 4 of them were my initial scissors that I'd use for cutting out fabric and whatnot, and would often be like, screw it, these are cheap scissors anyways, and would use them to cut paper or cardboard or foam or Warbler or lots of things that I shouldn't be cutting them with, since I wanted them to be just fabric only, even after writing cloth only in permanent marker, or in the case of one pair of scissors, I engraved it with my engraving tool on the metal. I still use them on other things. So
shaking my head.
Yeah. So when I got out of a sewing job that I was doing for a while, I was actually gifted at the job a pair of scissors with my name engraved on them, and they're really, really nice, like Ginger scissors. So I will never, ever, ever, ever. They have a special place in my room now. Never ever gonna use them on anything but fabric, and because they cut so nice.
Oh, good.
They cut so beautifully. Like, just cutting with them is just like, oh, it's satisfying.
Take good care of your sewing scissors.
Yes. I mean, that should be an obvious one, but I'm a
I feel like with cosplay, sometimes you're just desperate for, like, I need something to cut this thing, and it doesn't matter what it is, I just need a thing.
Yes, and the reason I have so many scissors is because I set them down and I forget where I put them. So I just grab the next pair.
For me, I put having the right needle for the job makes a big difference.
Yes.
And that's not just with a sewing machine, it's also with your hand sewing. So I like to have at least 3 different types of needles. I usually use a universal, which is just like a basic needle.
Yeah.
But I love having like a jeans or a heavyweight needle, and then having one that's better for knits because it's a little bit like sharper and it pierces more than it pushes the fabric, because knits otherwise just kind of get gummy when you sew them.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite needles is hand sewing, and for that I like finding those curved needles. They're really good for if you do mascots or stuffed animals, or if you're sewing anything that's on a rigid surface where you need the needle to be easy to come back to you. That's what a curved needle is for. And you can easily pierce it and it comes back through. The only problem with those kind of needles is it can be really hard to find one in a small gauge.
Yeah, they tend to come kind of wide.
Yeah, they're kind of wide. And so the other needle on my list that I love is beading needles. You use these for like those itty bitty seed beads that you'll see on like costumes and beading
that
projects.
Makes sense. It's just sitting there and like threading a needle, but you're threading each bead and you're just like,
yeah,
doing
well,
that
sometimes
golem
like,
face.
yeah, sometimes those tiny little seed beads, they won't go through a regular sewing needle, like a quilting needle. They're a little bit too small at the base. They're itty bitty. And so when you're doing stuff like, I like to do sequining with, you put a little sequin and then you put a little bead on top that holds the sequin in place.
Yeah.
And I like doing that with a beading needle because it makes it go really fast and easy, and I don't have to throw away as many beads because they don't fit through my needles.
That's clever. That's clever. I like it. I like it a lot. I didn't know that there were actual beading needles. I always just used mine, but that explains why,
Beetles.
Beetles. Beetles. I may have to get one of those.
Yeah.
Especially for one of the things I'm working on. I gotta finish that. Okay. I gotta finish all the things.
Do it.
Let's see. Tools. What's another fun one that I use? It's not necessarily necessary. But
good job.
I've got it. I can words. Is that word in statistics? I said it right the first time. I'm proud of myself. Let's see. Next on my list is having a proper grommet tool.
Ooh, yes.
So
I totally forgot about that one.
It's a good one. So like there's like things at like Joann's and whatnot that you can buy to like assemble grommets and whatnot, but getting a really good one from like a leatherworking place or just like having a real official legit one can make, one, it saves your hands a whole lot, and two, like it keeps it on there permanently. Takes a lot to get it off anyways.
I feel like you need fewer tools to do it that way too, because you just need the grommet setter instead of needing like the itty bitty like little things that come with the grommets, plus a hammer, plus plus finding like a solid space to hammer on. And,
yeah. So it
instead
helps to have just like a nice actual grommet tool, and even with eyelets, like you can get eyelet setters as well, and like if you can get customizable ones that like adjust for size and whatnot. Again, there's more than one way to assemble those. It just makes it so that it's quicker and nicer to put together, and I find putting in eyelets and grommets to be hecka annoying. And so having a tool that does it for me and make it easier is so nice. Oh goodness, 1,000-yard stare. I have so many of those I gotta put on my costume.
I really miss, I used to have access to an industrial one, and you just do a foot pedal ka-chunk and it would set it. And it was like my favorite thing in the world because I could do like a whole corset in like 2 minutes, just ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk.
That's not fair.
I know. I miss it.
How much does that cost?
I have no idea.
$1 bazillion.
Oh man.
I want one.
So for my other tools, I put foam clays, sculpting tools, and the right glues. So foam clays, I have 3 that I normally use. I start with a base in Model Magic, which is it's like a kid's clay.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a really easy to sculpt with one, and it's
I
hard
like
to
it.
get very many fine details. But if you need a lightweight base for something bigger you're sculpting, it's great.
Ooh, this is clever.
And then on top of that, it actually bonds really well with most paper clays or foam clays. So once it's dried, it takes about 48 hours to dry completely. You can sculpt over the top. And foam clays or paper clays are a similar base, but they also allow you to sand. And Model Magic actually sands really well too.
I have not tried that.
You haven't tried it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sands pretty well.
Dang it, why did I leave that bag open? Yeah, it's dried out.
So yeah, I just recently, I've tried a few different brands. It used to be one I had to import and get off of like Amazon or Japanese crafting sites. But I think TNT Cosplay now sells like
Ooh.
canisters of it.
I've seen good things from them.
Yeah, and it's really easy to work with, especially if you have something that needs finely sculpted details. I actually could like highly recommend their brand over some of the other brands I've tried because it stays not wetter, but it stays malleable longer.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel like I'm racing the clock to sculpt things. But it does take a good, 24 to 40 hours to dry out completely. But once it's dry, it can be sanded. And then what I like to use over the top of that is to get like a resin, either a UV resin or a two-part resin.
Mm-hmm.
And then I cover the project in a resin and it hardens. So you don't have the like fragility of clay. You still have that rigidity of the resin to keep it like you can drop it and it's still okay.
Strengthen it a bit. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question.
What's up?
Because you just gave me ideas.
Oh, okay.
All right. And this happens, by the way, audience, very often where I'm like, I have this idea and it's probably not going to work. But what if?
What if?
I did model clay.
Okay.
And it would keep the thing I want to make really light.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm working on Art Nouveau Chic for NDK.
Okay.
And she's got like this thing at the end of her braid.
Okay.
So I do model clay. And then I cover it in... Because I'm broke right now, so I can't buy any new materials.
Oh no! A flaw in the plan.
But I have, it's the plastic and it comes with little pellets and you put it in the...
Friendly plastic.
That! What if I put that over it? Like after it's all dry? And then I take my friendly plastic and I heat it up.
I've never tried that.
Alright, I'm gonna experiment.
Okay.
Watch my page, I'll post pictures for once. I'm gonna try a thing. I'm probably gonna melt it.
And so in addition to the foam clays, I would also suggest getting a sculpting toolkit. You can find it with like a lot of the like Sculpey clays, like the baking style clays or and I think it's sometimes with the air dry clays, but like just having things like the little pokey tools.
On a note, those little pokey tools.
Yes.
The sculpting tools and whatnot.
Yeah.
You can also use dental tools in those.
Yeah.
And they can create like nice little fine details and whatnot. And also they work for just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've used them on our D&D minis.
Nice.
For not just like adding sculpted details to them, but like painting to add like little itty bitty eyeballs. And
nice.
It's awesome. Sadie's shown me a lot of really cool stuff.
Cool. And then with foam, my other thing that I will say I am really a snob about is I'm really picky about what glue I use for foams.
Yes.
And this isn't foam clay so much. This is like EVA foam or upholstery foam or basically any kind of open cell foam. I'm really picky about using barge cement as opposed to like DAP and some of the other rubber cements.
There's a joke out there that once you go barge, you don't go back.
Is that right? I used it when I worked in like industrial mascot making, and I've seen it hold up better over time.
They use it on shoes.
They use it on shoes.
So it also works on leather.
Yes.
You can glue leather pieces together with it.
Yeah, it's really multi-useful, and it bonds crazy well.
It's stinky, too.
It is stinky. It is definitely absolutely toxic, and you should not breathe it in.
Smells good. No, I'm just kidding.
So make sure you do that in a well-ventilated area with the proper tools. But,
Safety first, people.
But yeah, that's my foam spiel.
Yeah. I've mentioned this one before. Again, you don't have to have this, but it is incredibly useful, and once you get one of these, you'll never go back as well. Belt sander! It's one of my favorites.
Oh, I want one so bad.
Like, you can sand a lot of things by hand, and there's, like, other kind of, like, mechanical sanding tools that you can use, but
Sure.
like a belt sander, it's spinning, you feel like a bad A as you're like, I'm sharpening this wooden sword, like it's on one of those spinny anvil, it's like a stone and it spins. I can't words. What is this thing?
Spinny, I don't know.
It's spinning and it's a stone and they sharpen their swords on it.
A whetstone?
That! But it spins.
But a spinny whetstone.
Yes.
A sweatstone.
Anyways, yes. It just feels amazing. And looks awesome. Like, it takes amazing photos. I had one of my friends, Kame, actually, was making her first sword. I'm so proud of her. And so I took pictures of her sharpening the blade on the thing, shaping out the blade on the belt sander.
That's
and it
awesome.
just, like, made for really cool progress photos.
Very cool tool. And it also makes the sanding go so much faster.
Oh, yes. Yes, it saves you so much time. It still takes bloody forever because sanding sucks.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, though, if you're shaping pieces, especially if it's made out of wood, or I think this might work on, probably doesn't work on plastics. I don't know. Don't quote me on plastics, but definitely on wood. If you want to have a curved edge, I'm going to throw in there also a router. Saves so much time of having to like sand that shape into the piece of wood.
Mm-hmm.
If you just can use a router and just boom, curve, done.
I was actually going to mention Dremel as one of...
Me too! Dang it, I gotta take that off my list.
Because I didn't know that they made routers for Dremels, but they have like a router you can attach to a Dremel.
Yep.
And it makes sure that you're only doodling in one set area, so you don't have to...
So, my father-in-law made a table for his... Essentially, you just, like, stick the thing in there. Now you can just, like, put pieces of wood across it and it routers the edges and whatnot. And it's essentially,
nice.
I believe, I'm probably wrong. My husband will correct me later. It is like a Dremel tool that's put in there to be the router.
I love that. I've used a Dremel before, but I had never used the router attachment for it when I was doing Riku's Keyblade for our competition.
Yeah.
And it made everything so much easier.
Right.
I was like I tried doing it by hand and I was just like, this is horrible. And then I found out there was a thingy that
Thingy. Can you do
the thingy
on the
thingy. So my next thingy.
Well, we could rave about Dremels right now.
We could. I like
we both
Dremels
have
a
it on
lot.
our list.
I do.
They are so versatile. Like, there's like so many attachments you can put on them.
Yes.
Like, it's an expensive thing to get into, but like, you can just buy a piece here and there every once a month. Get a new piece for it.
You can actually, if you don't do it too often, you can get a small kit for maybe $30-$40 that comes with like maybe 20 different bits, and it's pretty decent. Like I bought one of those kits, and like I don't do quite as much crazy armor and prop stuff as some, but it's lasted me a few years now.
Oh yeah, mine's been through the ringer, and it is still working. I mean, it's had to deal with me and Chris, which is a lot because we make a lot of really weird stuff.
Like you do.
Yeah, they're so versatile. You can use them for sanding, you can use them for cutting, you can use them for putting holes in stuff. Like for ALA, while we were there, I had the Dremel with me, and I was drilling holes.
Did you?
I was drilling holes in Link's tablet so that I could turn my phone on and off. Because I put that in there and realized I couldn't turn my phone on and off.
Well done.
So, yeah.
See, that's great. See, most people are like, oh, don't bring a sewing machine to the con. Mercedes will bring a Dremel to the con.
I'll bring a Dremel. I'm
Excellent.
hoping to not bring any power tools or powered machines to NDK.
Good. So my next one is, it's less of a tool, but it is still a tool. It's math. Okay, like, it sounds dumb, but, like, basic math is so important because, like, one of my biggest things is, like, I don't fit within most average sizes for just about anything. I am very tall, and I am also plus size. So I have to figure out a different proportion depending on what I'm cosplaying that helps it look, I guess, more in keeping with the character is how I like to do it. And especially with my height, trying to proportion a sword that is meant for someone who is maybe 5'3" and what it would be like sized for someone who's about 6 feet tall is going to be a little bit different.
You tall.
So it's really nice to be able to do the math to figure out the ratio. So I will look at the character and go, okay, so this sword is as tall as the character's hip. So if it were to hit on me, it's going to be, say, 56 inches. I'm not that tall, but say it's going to be that many inches. And then I can go, okay, so on me it's that tall. On them it's this tall. And then I can kind of go from there and going, okay, if it's this tall, it's this wide on the character. So I know it, and you're basically comparing numbers back and forth to make the object the right size for you or for whoever you're making it for. Math is also super important in calculating your yardage, in measuring out your props, in so many things with cosplay. So if you don't already know about ratios, I would totally suggest doing just a quick online course about it because it can make sizing your stuff so much easier.
Yes. And there's a lot of resources out there that can teach you that super easily.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tout my
like with
Khan Academy is really nice. I like their tutorials. They really bring it down to the bare bones.
That's exactly what I did for Riku's Keyblade. Is I needed something that is sized for a 15-year-old child, but it needs to fit on me, a 6-foot tall adult. And I drew it all by hand. I didn't use a computer or anything to I could have printed it out and that would have also worked. But knowing what size to tell it to print out, I would have still needed those measurements and knowing the difference in what size it would be on me.
Ooh.
So,
fancy.
Yeah. Math.
Have the math. On that note, if you don't want to do math, take a picture of yourself, stick it in a program. If you have an art program, so here's my next one, is art programs. Here's my next tool. No, I'm just kidding. You still will want to use the math on this. But if you're more of a visual person like I am, where just hearing the numbers, you're like, but visually you're like, oh, yeah, that's me. So I like to visually see how big things should be. So I'll actually pull up an art program. I have two ways of doing this. One is through the art program where I'll have a picture of myself, front, sideways, backwards if I need. If I usually don't go that far, because I'm pretty much know myself pretty well at this point. But then I can take front, side, back views of the character and kind of paste it over the top to kind of get an idea where the height should be. And then I know what my height is, and this is definitely where the math does come into play, where it's, okay, now I know that the sword will be so long. Along with the sword being so long, I also look up, long swords tend to be a certain amount of inches long. Short swords tend to be a certain amount of inches long. And I'll try and see if I'm within those ranges as well, to, if I'm going more for realism versus to scale to the character. Usually I go to scale to the video game character because a lot of things are giant, except for Legend of Zelda. I'm done making cricket bats. They're too big. So I won't be doing that again. But yeah, the other way that I do this, I have actually done this once, and I actually plan on doing it again, especially since Kamui posted a thing on it. I was like, I've done that! Where you actually project it onto a wall.
Yeah.
And I actually did this when I was making the pattern for way back when I was going to do Fierce Deity Link and then gave up because I couldn't bend in the armor. I put it on and I couldn't bend. And I was like, okay, I'm done making this.
Uh-huh.
I feel bad that I gave up so quickly. But the sword, I really wanted to make sure that it was, like, didn't dwarf me, but helped me feel bigger. Because I am not tall. Pannon's tall. I am not tall. I am exactly average height. Thank you very much. 1 inch shorter, and I would be considered short. But anyways, yeah. So I actually borrowed a projector from my dad's work at the time. Took it into my parents' kitchen because it was the place with the most room and the biggest, blankest wall. And projected Fierce Deity Link on there, and I used an art program to kind of like finagle things around, and then stood next to it and was like, Dad, Mom, is this good? Okay, good. You know, just kind of tweaked it until like the size was right, and then this is the ridiculous part. I taped a piece of paper to the wall.
That's not ridiculous.
And
No.
I traced it all out.
That's amazing.
Where nowadays I would figure out what that scale was and I would just put it into an art program and print it.
Yes. No, it's funny because like when I worked making those industrial mascots and stuff, we would actually do that for a lot of the custom projects. Is we would do it in a small scale on like a figure on a model, and then they would put it onto a projector and project it so big on a wall and trace it all the pattern pieces.
Oh, okay, I don't feel so bad then.
Yeah,
That's how
no,
professionals
it's a
do
very
it.
good idea.
Yeah, the professionals do it that way.
Right. Anyway. So my next thing is knowing your sewing machine and the right feet for the job.
Yes. Knowing your sewing machine is like that's one of the biggest things. Mine all have personalities. Serger likes to throw its strings about and get them caught on things. A Viking machine, if the stitches are weird, it de-threaded itself somewhere. Never fail. That's what's happened. Or I put the bobbin in backwards. And my Singer really does fine. It's actually fine. It doesn't really have any weird quirks yet. I think it's still new enough that it doesn't have weird stuff happening with it yet.
I remembered the name of mine since I actually came here and got it maintenanced while I was here.
Hey.
I know. So I use a Janome Memory Craft 6500. It's usually used for quilting, but it has like a ton of different feet. And I've been having a lot of fun getting to know and use all the different feet. So my favorite foot for my machine is the walking foot.
Can I touch it?
Yeah, you can touch it. You'd have to come.
Oh, you have a walking foot?
Yeah.
Well, I'm out. No,
Oh,
just
rude.
kidding.
So walking foot. Basically, what a walking foot does, if you're not familiar, is it kind of like evenly pulls your fabric through. So if you're sewing something stretchy to something not, it's great. If you're sewing something more heavy duty to something lighter, it's good because it pulls all your fabric in at the same speed. So a lot of times if you just put it under a regular foot, it's just applying steady pressure. And so whatever is stretchier is going to give more. And so you get like wrinkles and bumps, but a walking foot pulls everything through at the same time.
Is the walking foot, is that the one with like the little wheel on it? Or is that a different one?
I think it depends by brand.
Okay.
Mine looks like it's doing little hops as it goes and pulls your fabric
That's
through.
really cute.
It has a little hook that goes around, you know, the little bar that sticks out by your needle? You hook it to the top of that bar.
Yeah.
And then it forces the thing to go up and down with the speed of your sewing machine.
Okay.
And so it kind of works
it's like
in
literally
tandem.
walking.
Yeah, it works in tandem with the feed dogs. So instead of just applying steady pressure, it's like, okay, the feed dogs go at this time. We're going to squeeze together at the same time and jump and pull the fabric together.
Okay.
So just
I'll have to ask Melissa what was the foot that she threw my way. I was helping like sew some gloves at her place, and it was like this pleather stuff, and it like got stuck. And like I was like, I'm sorry, Melissa, this is a garbage glove. And she's like, that is a garbage glove. And she goes, oh wait. And then she handed me this foot, and the next glove was beautiful.
Oh, nice.
And the pleather went through it just fine. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I like learned something new.
It might have been Stacy told me about a version she uses called the Teflon foot, which it kind of helps things glide through under the top. So it gives you pressure, but it doesn't press so hard that you have to pull things through. It just helps it glide through at the speed that
this one had like a little wheel on it.
I don't know.
It's just like, it was awesome. I was like, I need one of these. I want all the tools.
And then the last foot I listed is the buttonholer.
Yes.
If you haven't used a buttonholer before.
They're magic.
Most machines these days come standard with a buttonholer.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see it as a setting on like the knob off to the side, or you push a button and go to the buttonholer setting. But you also need to apply a foot that goes with it. And you can find some great tutorials on how to use it. It's pretty simple, but if you need to put a bunch of buttonholes in something, it will make sure all your buttonholes are sized exactly to match your button, because it has a little spot on the foot that you put your button. And it locks into place and goes, okay, this is the button size. I will make buttonholes for this button size.
It's magic and I love it.
Yeah. So I'm getting to know your feet and what they do. Like
Not your feet, but your sewing
Well,
feet.
when I first got my memory craft, I was like, I only used the regular foot, and I struggled with a lot of things, and it came with a whole box full of feet, and I was like, I'm not going to use those. And one day I just went through all of them, and I was like, okay, what's this one? And I'd look up a YouTube video and see what it does, and I was like, oh, I could have been doing this.
Okay, I'm going to throw this out here, just because Kimi only learned about it the other day. Zipper feet. And
oh, I love zipper
when you
feet.
go to sew your zipper, iron it open first.
Yes.
That's what you just learned the other day.
Okay.
It was great. It was just, she was like, I've been doing this wrong the whole time.
Oh no.
And I was like, was it ironing it open? Because that took me forever to figure out
This
too.
is invisible zippers.
Invisible zippers.
Yeah.
And you can do it with regular ones too.
Oh, nice.
And it makes them easier to sew in.
Nice.
Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, I love a zipper foot. What the zipper foot does is it makes it so you can sew your zipper closer to the teeth, so your foot isn't stumbling over your zipper teeth. It's very nice to have.
Okay.
Yes, Mercedes?
I'm in a great mood. Okay. Next on my list is lighting.
Oh.
For me, I am very picky about the lights in my room. In fact, my project room currently, there is the main light in there. Takes a little bit to warm up, and I hate it. I need lights on, and I need them bright, and I need them bright now. I made a sort of pun.
You need them bright now.
I need them bright now. Okay.
Good job.
Yay! Dang, I didn't save it for the end. That's okay. So yeah. I like my lighting to be a certain way, especially when I'm working on stuff. In our garage just now, we actually put in some extra lighting, and it is such night and day. Having them in there, it's so great. But yeah, one of my serger doesn't have it does have a light in it, but in the bottom part where you go and actually do all the stupid complicated threading, there is no light, and I can't see what I'm doing, and it's poorly designed.
No.
I hate it. I love my machine. I hate that part of it. And so I've actually set up a lamp on the side of my sewing desk now that I can just point the light right into it. It's just like a adjustable lamp. I also have a million tiny lights, just little portable ones with magnets or hooks on them, and I can just hang them up where I'm like, okay, I need more light here, and I just hang it up, and then I've got the lighting that I need. Harbor Freight usually has like this nice little coupon where if you purchase something, you get a free light.
You buy anything, you get a free light. Yeah.
I have a million of those.
Nice.
And I just like hang them up anywhere. They use very little battery power and just give me the lighting that I need for just being able to see what I'm working on. So I like those. I've got 2 lamps in my room and then a million of those things sitting around. I've got an LED one that like sticks to the side of stuff and has like really bright LEDs in it. And then I also use them in the garage with all my power tools, especially with the ones with like hooks on them. I can set them up on like a safe spot near the power tool so I can light up what I'm working on and be able to see things, because a lot of my tools are older, and so they don't have like an official light built into them. And so we've had to add things to them, or like one time I even on my scroll saw I actually clamped my really good flashlight to it. And it worked great.
Nice.
I was able to see right where I needed to be cutting, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. My next one is friction pens. Have you heard of friction pens?
Those are the ones where, like, you apply heat to them and they disappear.
Yes.
Magic
I actually
pen.
found out about it on accident. I didn't realize I owned one already. And I had traced out a bunch of things that I wanted to put some heat and bond on.
Mhm.
So I had drawn them on the paper in this blue pen I owned. And I went to iron it onto the fabric.
And it was gone.
And I moved the iron over and everything vanished. And I was like, I guess I get to trace everything all over again.
That's amazing.
So that's super fun.
Well done.
So friction pens are, it's spelled Frixion.
Yes.
And they are amazing for if you need to do something on a fabric that needs to disappear later.
Yes.
So if you have like something you need to draw on to cut out, if you have a design that you need to follow and so on, if you're quilting, basically anything that you don't want it to be there later,
Mhm.
it's great for, and it vanishes completely. I was skeptical at first, and then I made a boo-boo, and yeah, it definitely disappears completely because I had to trace that over again.
Yeah, I like using them for tracing out my patterns if I'm, like, drawing out the pattern before I cut it.
Yes.
Yeah, I like using them for that because, like, if I accidentally mark up the actual part of the fabric, it'll just iron away and it's gone.
And they have so many good applications.
Yes.
Love it.
Very versatile, very reusable kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend. And they're pretty cheap.
Yeah, they're like $2.
Yeah. And they come in all sorts of colors.
They do.
I found mine the other day because I'm finding things in my project room again. Yeah,
now I'm wondering, could you like use that for a skit and like put it on something and then heat it during the skit and it looks like it vanishes?
Oh.
That's probably way too much work for way too little of a thing, but
how can I get a heat gun on stage? No, just
how
kidding.
Just imagine you have a bunch of stage ninjas.
Breathe on it! Breathe faster!
Bunch of passed out ninjas halfway through your skit.
Anyway, speaking of, I also put a heat gun on my list of things that is really handy to have.
I love heat guns too. Let's both rave about heat guns.
Heat guns are awesome.
Yes.
They're basically needed if you're going to be working with any kind of thermal plastic, friendly plastic, or foam in general, really.
Yeah, it helps shape that stuff.
Yeah.
It's good for leather too.
Oh, really?
So you can cook your leather and harden it in your oven. But if that's not something that is available for you to use because, you know, it's for food, and, you know, you may have a parent or roommates or others who don't want you to put your armor in the oven.
Maybe. Maybe.
I actually just make my own oven. I'm doing air quotes. I get a cardboard box and I line it with, tinfoil. I'll set up one of those, and I've actually used it to heat up, not just like helping to shape my leather, but also for Sintra, shaping it into various shapes, any other heat plastics and things like that. I'll just lay them in the box, and just point the heat gun at it. Make sure I'm not burning anything. Again, you gotta be careful. Heat guns can be very, very hot. I mean, hence their name.
Hence the name.
Hence the name.
Heat gun.
And it actually will evenly heat up the pieces. So actually the curved pieces on my Zora armor, I did that method where I heated them up in a box, and then my husband had a dewar for liquid nitrogen.
Oh.
That was the perfect curve on it for my hips. And so I just laid it on that.
Nice. Very cool.
Yes.
Very
and for
cool.
my test pieces, I put those straight onto my leg. I had pants on,
Good.
so I did not burn myself.
Good. Do your own easy bake.
Yeah. But yeah, what do you have to say about heat guns?
I mean, I think you covered it pretty good. I just like that they exist, and I enjoy owning one, and it's very handy. Make sure that the surface that you are doing your heat gunning on is not going to melt. That includes carpet.
Yes.
That includes some plastic tile. If you have ceramic tile, it is okay, but it may stick.
Yeah.
So just
watch
be
out for
really
sticky, warble sticky.
Be really careful. Cement is usually good. If you can have like a non-stick, like you were talking about, tinfoil is a good one because then you don't have to worry as much. But, yeah.
And don't follow after my example when I put hot thermoplastic directly on my face.
Please don't put it directly.
It was worth it in the moment, but never again.
No. Okay.
Yeah. So, Bluetooth music box.
Oh.
So, one, it's portable, and you can hook your phone up to it. So whatever music you got on your phone, you can play off of it.
Also, skit rehearsing is so handy
Yes, so handy for skit rehearsing, for when you're working on stuff. I have speakers connected to my computer, but my computer is it is a beast, and it heats up my room, which is great in the winter. It gets nice and toasty in there, but during the summer, kind of sucks. So having a portable Bluetooth player is good for keeping my room cool, as well as freaking skits. Go to the park, you can have that portable Bluetooth player, start playing your skit music, and you can practice with your friends, and you don't have to be like, can I hear it off my phone? Or like you're practicing and everyone's holding their phones and you're like all hitting play at the same time.
Yep, we've all been there. Let's see. We Narwhals in Jars actually mentioned this one, but this is one of my favorites, is a rotary cutter.
Yes.
Make sure you also have a mat and a clear ruler. Super helpful. Rotary cutter is just looks like a pizza cutter.
Yeah, it's a pizza cutter, but for fabric.
Yeah, exactly. So it not only does it do amazing straight lines, so if you're any sort of quilter, you probably already own one. But you can also just kind of freehand things. It gives you a nice, clean cut. You don't have to worry about a lot.
And having a self-healing mat underneath, is so nice. They're pricey, but they are so worth it. I was gifted a set for Christmas one year, and I love it. I accidentally warped my mat, but it's being flattened at this very moment, actually. And it should relax back into place. It just got warped in the move.
Do you know what I found out, though?
Yeah.
With mats, because we had an accident. We had a whoops. Those self-healing mats, if you spill barge cement or DAP on them, they freak out and bubble and warp.
Whoa.
Yeah. I did not know that, but they do.
I want to go experiment with that, but I don't want to ruin my mat.
Find like a cheapy old one and just like put a few drops on and watch it.
It freaks out.
It freaks out.
That sounds awesome, but also I'm sorry about your mat.
Yeah, it's okay.
That also sounds like a really cool competition scene of like, you just get like a spray bottle of this stuff and then just like watch as your costume made of this stuff just bubbles. I don't know. I like this idea of just like, ugh.
It goes
like some
full
Zerg.
Akira.
Yeah.
Flesh monster.
That's all.
No.
I do not recommend using toxic materials on stage.
Yeah. But one of my other ones, this one's actually on my wish list. I don't own one, but I want one really bad.
What is it?
A bias tape machine.
Oh gosh, yes.
Because you can just cut it into the right size and it feeds through and it heats your bias cut fabric into bias tape.
I want one.
And I use bias tape so much. I just really want a bias tape machine, but whenever I go to Joann's or other places, they're out of them.
Aw.
Or they aren't in stock, or
they're expensive.
So, bias tape maker.
That sounds awesome.
I want it.
I know I've said this one before, and it kind of goes along with the fabric scissors, but leather shears.
Yes.
So it's like you can cut leather with like a box cutter or like special knives and things like that, but having shears, oh my goodness. I had Kimi over. I have them over a lot now. And she was making like leather stuff, and it's like she's always cut it out with like box cuttery things, and I was like, here, try my shears, and she's like, oh my gosh, it cuts like butter. It's so nice. You save your hands and wrists again, because it's just a cutting motion versus like you're trying to hack through it, and if your knife is dull, then it makes it harder. I definitely only use my leather shears for just the leather, and I'll also cut like my wax thread with them, but that's because it's not metal. Don't cut metal with them. Or paper.
For that, you get
or
the
foam.
metal shears.
Yes. Yeah, what's next on your list?
I have dyeing material, so having a dye pot that can fit at least 2 to 3 yards of wet fabric. And also, actually, Stacy brought this up because I always use a like stick or whatever's handy to stir. But if you have tongs, like salad tongs or like barbecue tongs, like the long-handled ones, you can move your fabric around, you can pull it out, and you actually grip it instead of just like poking it with a stick and trying to pry it out of the pot, which has resulted in many messes.
Yes.
So
I never wanted to join the Blue Man group until today.
I have a mental image of Melissa's kitchen right now. It's just like flashing in my brain of like, yeah.
Tongs.
Maybe I'll buy her a set.
Big dye pot.
She might have had some, actually. She has a huge dye pot. I
Nice.
don't know if she was borrowing it or not. I'll have to ask her, because I like it and may want to borrow it.
Nice.
My turn. Bandsaw. Definitely pricier up there on the list. Again, this is something not required. You can usually cut out a lot of things using like a jigsaw or something that's more like a handheld tool, but I love bandsaw because it cuts like everything. It really does, including me.
Yes, it does.
That is, be careful, guys. But yeah, I love that, like, it just does great with cutting wood. It does great with cutting foam. Oh man, it cuts through EVA foam just like, it's beautiful, and it doesn't make a huge mess either. Especially if you're using a fresh blade. Oh, it's beautiful when it comes out. I'm just like, look at that cut. It's really easy to tell when the blade's getting dull, because one, it starts chewing up things more, and like if you're cutting wood, it starts looking like the edges, like the side of the wood is getting kind of burned.
Ooh.
And yeah.
Yes. You know, that actually reminds me, there was one, I didn't list it because it's one I want to try, but I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Is they make EVA cutters now that do angled cuts.
Yeah.
That can do straight or angle or V cuts, and they look really cool.
So, on my next item, actually, these two kind of go together. There's also the scroll saw.
Yes.
Scroll saw can also do the same thing, depending on which blade you put into it, and you can do angled cuts.
Yes.
I don't know if I can on the bandsaw if I can do angled cuts. I'm going to look at that tomorrow. Not today, tomorrow. But I know that my scroll saw does angled cuts because I've done it before on it. And I've put through both of these smaller foam, because I have only tiny blades on my scroll saw, but foam, Sintra or PVC plastic.
Ooh.
The scroll saw, I actually really like doing the PVC plastic on, because the bandsaw, it works fast, but it takes really deep cuts out of everything. It takes about, I'm looking at my scar.
Aha! Let me measure on my thumb how deeply it cuts.
It's probably a good 2 millimeters, maybe. It's decent. It's decent.
All of our horror stories are contained in the episode today.
Yes. They've heard this horror story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it does like eat a lot of it out, where the scroll saw, when I'm cutting into especially like the PVC plastic, I just cut through it and whatnot, and because of how quickly it's moving, I'll finish and I'll just like pick up the piece and everything's still sticking together, but then I just pop it and it's like falls apart like a puzzle piece.
Ooh.
It doesn't take a whole lot out of it, and
Gotcha.
Tends to be not much, but a little bit cleaner, and I'm able to make more complicated cuts with it. Where the bandsaw, it's mostly straight cuts and very gradual curves, but not sharp curves. If you do sharp curves in it, there's other tricks you have to do to make it do that. It's just, you gotta finagle. Whereas scroll saw, I can, as long as I move slowly, I could cut out a perfect circle. I could cut out with guidance. I need help. I'm still wibbly. But like you can turn on a dime. You can just like, you don't have to back out like with the bandsaw and then come back in to do a 90-degree turn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that. So I just have a couple more.
Yeah.
My next one is UV resin. I like 2-part resin if I have the time for it. UV resin, not only can you cast like gems and things with it, but I like it as an emergency glue. Because if you have something on your prop fall apart, you put the UV resin on both sides and you shine a UV light through it, it automatically bonds. Like, it is a chemical reaction rather than, well, I mean,
I've seen Chris
the UV
use that.
creates a chemical reaction when it heats.
Yeah.
So the UV heats it and it bonds immediately. And as soon as it gets hot, but not like super hot, because it's actually the same stuff they use on like the gel nails.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's similar to like what they put on your teeth for braces.
Yeah.
And they like bring the light over and it's like, and then it's like you got
It's
braces.
Yeah. So I love it for
Teeth hurt
sticking
for the next few
like
months.
I see a lot of really cute tiny jewelry that's made with it, and I love it for that, but I also love it as a bonding agent if you need to like stick things on quickly or repair things, or it's just good to have in your toolkit, especially in case of emergencies. And it's so easy to use.
Yeah. I think I've seen Chris use that before, and I should give it a shot. That sounds really fun, actually.
It's way fun to play with. Sometimes it depends on the brand you get. You might get the resin is a little bit more bendy than you would like when it's finally done.
That could be useful for some things.
It could be. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you do want some flex in it. But yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Neat. Good stuff.
It's good stuff.
Good. Speaking of bonding things, super glues.
Mm.
I love Rapid Fuse. I always go to use the wrong name for it. Rapid Fuse. I've talked about it before, of course, so I'll just leave it at that. I love Rapid Fuse. Takes 30 seconds and it's done. 10 minutes and it's bonded forever.
See, I thought you were going to be like a little bit longer winded about talking about it, so I was like, I'm going to take a big long drink. And she's like, and I'm done. And I'm like, great.
I've raved about it before on the
with
podcast.
my mouth full.
But having the right super glue can make all the difference. I hate the super glues where it's like, hold it for 5 minutes. Even for 1 minute, I'm just like done.
I'm still picturing this UV resin, and instead of like, oh crap, I can't find my UV light, sun powers activate!
You can actually take it out in the sun. The bottles for it have to like have a special like coating so they don't like have sunlight penetrate it.
I just imagine
But
some poor cosplayer standing with a keyblade.
Harnessing the power of the sun with ancient amulet. Yeah. Anyway.
Amazing. Okay.
Anyway.
Anywho.
Okay. The last one I have is maybe like a little bit harder to get because I know crickets are becoming more and more of a thing.
Yes.
But I have a like industrial die cut vinyl machine, or at least access to one because it's not mine, it's my brother's. But those are super nice to have because I can just draw up a design in Illustrator, not Facebook. I can draw a design in Illustrator or Photoshop.
I don't know how you do that in Facebook.
I'm sorry. I don't know how I would do that in Facebook either.
Maybe you like open up the picture thing and then like go to edit it.
No. No.
Oh, that's a nice filter. I'll use that.
But you create a vector file, which is like instead of like nerdy, I don't know, jargon, I guess, but vector and raster are like the two
vectors
types.
You can scale to any size that you want and it doesn't lose resolution.
Yes.
Where a raster file will lose resolution if you keep scaling it.
So that's the difference between like a JPEG that you zoom in too far and you get pixels, whereas with a vector file you could zoom in or zoom out as far as you want and it would stay the same.
Stay smooth.
Stay nice and crisp. So with a die cut machine, you can like get not die cut, vinyl cut. You can then program the machine to cut out whatever shape you make in a vector file, and it can make it at any size. So with that, I've done like the small decals, like that are maybe like 2 to 3 inches, 2x3. Or I've done stuff that's like big enough for the hood of my car. Like my old car. I think you remember my old car. I had a giant Hylian crest on the whole hood of the car because I'm a giant nerd.
Giant nerd symbol.
Oh no, that's dope.
Oh, dope. Dope. Either one. Either one.
Both.
I'll be either
Both
one.
is good.
But I like having that not just for decals, but you can use it for a stencil. Like you can do a reverse of it and use it to paint a stencil onto your fabric. Or you can also there's a different type of vinyl that's a heat transfer, and you can have it cut out an intense shape and then you press it onto like a shirt or a backpack or a cosplay. So it gives you not your skin. It gives you very nice, precise lines. It's just not always the look I'm going for, but sometimes when I have to do like really detailed stuff, instead of doing like applique or stencil and I want the lines to be really sharp, sometimes I'll just draw it in Photoshop and then create either a heat transfer file or make a stencil out of it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
My last one also comes with some awesome news.
Oh.
I got a wood lathe.
You wanted to do this whole episode just so you could brag on your wood lathe.
Yes!
I knew it! I knew it!
It seems kind of lathy, doesn't it?
Oh.
I finally got one and I'm excited to use it. Got my dream tool.
Very nice.
Little. It's very little. Definitely baby's first wood lathe. But it's big. I could do about 3 feet, I think, of something in it. And Chris is getting a bunch of things all set up for it, but I'm really excited because I'm like, I can do sword handles instead of doing them by hand. And they'll actually be perfectly round instead of doing them by hand. Or I will break them and they'll like fly in my face or something because I'm a klutz.
Yes.
And then I'll have a new horror story.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Like this tool that tried to attack me this week.
Tune in next week while we visit Mercedes in the hospital.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And we talk about safety. Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Can we retcon our own show where episode number 1 is safety?
We'll do episode like -1.
0.01.
Safety. These idiots. All right. So speaking of that, cosplay horror stories.
Yes.
Any you'd like to share about using your specialized tools?
I shared the best one already.
See, I feel like I have one, but it's not my story. It was someone else I was helping. And I feel like it was their horror, but maybe they weren't as horrified as I thought they should have been. So, I have a friend who was cosplaying as Fran from Final Fantasy XII. And she's that Viera that has like all the crazy armor. And they hadn't plotted out how to stick the armor to their thighs.
Oh.
And so right before the con, they were like, here's a hot glue gun. And I was like, please no. Please no. I think they had nylons on, but I don't know if that made it better or worse.
Oh.
It was a bad time. It was a bad time.
No.
No.
Were they okay?
Yeah.
I mean, just end it.
Just end it ends.
End it ends.
I mean, I can't tell you how much it hurt because it wasn't me.
I hope they didn't get blisters.
Yeah, when I even accidentally touch it, I'm like, no, that's not fun.
No, that stings.
It's been a while since I've worked on anything, so I haven't had anything like new mishaps come up. By the way, David, you're going to hate us.
I don't think I can hate anything more than the last batch of episodes. So
yeah, that's not the first time we've done that.
We left you a present.
Oh yeah.
This one will make.
This is David's horror story.
It'll be a good.
David, tell us about this horrible time you had.
Yes, tell us your horror story.
So my horror story is the internet is a very powerful and wonderful tool. It started here in the state of Utah, actually by the University of Utah. It's one of the first universities to accept it, and so it's really cool that we have kind of this cool history. But when the internet does not work in your pocket or with you, it's it can be a bane more than anything. Mm-hmm. So with Subikins, between me not having my internet and using my phone as a hotspot, the weird internet issues that we kept having between all three of us, there was a constant delay in all of our reactions. And I was so worried about one of these delays because at one point I'm editing it and Mercedes just completely cuts off Sumikins. Like, Sumikins, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and Mercedes just like, so I was thinking about, and I was like, wow. Wow,
I can't believe how rude you were, Mercedes. Oh my god.
Without context. This makes Mercedes look like a complete jerk.
I mean, we all know I am, but...
And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh no. I literally... Because normally it takes me about a little bit more than double the length of an episode to edit it out. You know, listen through it, clean it up, do a second listen through, add the bumpers on it, and then call it good. This one, I literally went through it 3 different times, and I would get so upset because of just like, I'm better than this. I should have known that this was going to happen, because it was echoey in places that you guys probably heard, and it was like really bad quality on one microphone, but then the other microphones that picked up was kind of okay. So I was just so frustrated that like I'd get like 5 minutes in, and my 5 minutes in is like 45 minutes of work.
Oh.
And so I'm sitting there like, all right, I just got to walk away. And I would be on Facebook for a little bit, and then I'd like, okay, I'll come back to this later. And then I wouldn't come back to it because I would look at my computer and I go, nah, I'm done. No, I'll come back to this tomorrow.
I die.
Yeah. I remember even on my Instagram, I took a screenshot of like all of this mess, and like, you know, audio does not necessarily translate to screenshots, but I was like, I'm in hell. This is what hell is like. It's echoey feedback, and it's terrible. So that's my horror story. Make sure that everyone's wearing headphones next time.
I love the thought that hell for you is something that Mercedes and I create. I feel like that's a good note to end on.
Actually, I thought of a horror story.
Oh.
I don't know if I've shared this one or not. I don't think I have. But speaking of using, you know, various tools and whatnot, siblings are useful, but don't use them as clamps.
Your sibling is your tool.
I've used them as clamps. So back when I was first making props at my parents' house and setting things up in the backyard and not having access to a lot of things, and also just kind of being let loose on the tools that were available to me and being like, she's fine. I probably needed a little bit more supervision. So I'm the oldest of 5 kids. And 2 of my siblings, that was 3 of them, really, really wanted to help me make this stuff once they realized I was making like keyblades and things like that. They're like, oh, we love these games, let me help. So I would set up this block of wood that I was getting ready to cut a prop into on our picnic tables out back. And it is like a decent, like 4 to 5 foot length piece of wood. And
I'm already terrified.
I know, right? And on one side of it, I would have the pattern of the thing I needed to cut out, and on the other side would be my sibling's butt. It would sit on the piece of wood while I have a scroll saw and I'm cutting it out. Don't do that. Don't do that. Safety first, people. Again, we'll have an
oh my gosh. And it's going to be all things that we have learned from injuring ourselves or our siblings, apparently.
I never injured them, but they did get covered in sawdust. We'd all come inside just covered in sawdust. My mom was just like, oh my gosh. Yes. Dad eventually figured out what I was doing, was like, okay, these are clamps. Stop using your siblings. And even then it took me a while because it was faster just to grab one of them and have them sit on it.
Oh my goodness.
That reminds me of one time my friend was making a Hawkeye cosplay. We were using a heat gun to heat up PVC to shape it so that way we could have like a bow that would look a little more realistic than not.
A little bow.
But we couldn't, we needed to get it off the ground so that, because the heat was kept being absorbed by the ground, and no matter how much tinfoil we put down. So we had a plank of wood that was surrounded by tinfoil, and we're like, okay, what do we have that will raise this piece of wood off the ground, like even by a few centimeters, something. And we look around, And she just reaches into a bag and she pulls out 5d6s. You think this will be good? And so we have like 2d6s.
Oh my goodness.
Stacked on top of each other, holding it up. It's like, I think this will be good.
This is fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
It's good.
They melted a little bit. It's fine.
Oh,
Really melted.
I love it.
Lucky dice.
Oh.
Very
All
nice.
right.
All right. Well, once again, announcements. We have upcoming conventions. Non-DeskCon
Yes.
is at the end of August. We will have another live show coming up at Anime Banzai in October. We're still going back and forth on what topic, so make sure you write in and let us know what you'd like us to cover while we're at the con.
Yeah.
Come see us, come say hi, come share your horror stories, and at Non-DeskCon, come see us at our booth.
Yes. And don't forget Glow Up stories for the live show when we get times for when that's going.
Yes.
Do we have times for that right now? No, not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
We will put it up on all the social medias.
Post it on the social medias.
And be one of the first to get your very own Cosplay Stitch and Seam decal. So come see us at the booth. And look forward to t-shirt stuff coming up. If you'd like to send us your horror stories or ideas for upcoming shows, or just a positive or horrible experience that you may have had at a convention, you can email us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com.
Or you can come over to the website. Oh, that was what I was going to do for a horror story. Oh my gosh.
Well, now you can save it for later.
I guess I'll save it for later, yes. I have a horror story about our website. Don't let me forget to tell you guys about it. But it's still our domain.
Yay!
I'm just an idiot. Anyways, Cosplay Stitch and Seam, CosplayStitchandSeam.com. Say that 5 times fast. I can't. Yeah. And, or you can come to the Facebook page,
Yay,
support
the
us on
Facebook
Ko-fi,
Coffee.
Wheezing.
Have you seen the new coughing and wheezing Pokemon?
Yes, I have. They look fantastic.
They
Wait,
sure
that
do.
was real?
Yeah,
Yes,
it's real.
with the-
I had
with
the
the
same
steam.
reaction. I didn't think they were real.
Oh.
Anyway, our music.
By Macy Roberts.
Thank you, Macy Roberts.
Sound editing by
Me, David Jeffress. I'm still laughing at this. I'm sorry. You can find my work on Dungeons and Chill, also Comic Trades Monthly. So for this month, as we did Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, it was a fantastic read. Again, we're going to be doing Planetary by Warren Ellis, and we're also going to be doing like a movie bracket thing for all Marvel and DC movies. So make sure that you subscribe to us over there, Comic Trades Monthly, and we would love to have you join our book club.
Woo,
Very
do it.
nice. Final thought. If you eat too much food coloring, are you dying inside? Bye, guys.
Oh dear Lord.
I want to do that next time I'm dying on the inside. Sorry. I've had this cough. It won't go away.
I
That's
had
a
it
horror
ever
story.
since I got into Utah again. Because it went away when I left. But now that I'm back, I'm just like...
It's weird how being closer to sea level and not being surrounded by smog, but sea air makes a difference.
Some delightful ASMR of me hacking into the microphone. Part 2.